Have to join in our conversation.
Okay.
We live.
I know we're live. Okay, welcome to the Talk Over podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Griffin.
And I am Warren Griffin.
And our special guest today is Mr. Rice, the barber. Rice will be a part of the Beat magazine. He will be advertising his barber skills and giving some insight on his challenges that he went through and how he got started. So welcome, Mr. Barber. Rice the barber.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, no problem. So what we're going to be talking about, my husband has a few things he wants to talk about on the show, and you can just join in with us. We usually just start a conversation, and then we can get into some things about yourself later on. How's that?
That's great.
Okay.
All right. So, of course, this show is titled A Roller Coaster Life. And of course, I am, I've been in the gym a lot. Well, not a lot, but I do go to the gym. And, that's where I get a lot of my thoughts from and things that I want to talk about on the show. And I just want to start off like this, and you guys can join in the conversation. And my wife and myself, is it Robert, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can call me Rice.
Rice. I call you Rice. Okay, Rice. We talk a lot about where we come from and where we are now. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at Bully magazine. If you go to the website, that's what a lot of the stories are about. But the reason why I chose the title A Roller Coaster Life, because that is what majority of us go through from adolescent into adulthood, right?
Yes, sir.
So I want to start this conversation off about where I'm from. I'm from Virginia, and of course, I'm from a park called Attleboro Park in Virginia. Now, Attleboro Park is not there anymore, and what they did was they tore down my old neighborhood, and they actually built affordable homes for the same people that they pretty much, I guess, they gave them somewhere else to live, and then they brought them back to be able to become homeowners. And I think that is what was the project that was going on back then. But I had left well before then. I left Portsmouth, Virginia at the age of 17 because I joined the military. But I had to go back from the military and pretty much I lived back in Portsmouth for a while until I moved down Virginia Beach. But one thing I can say is that I've always been consistent with a job, but I've always had these times in my life where I just felt like I wasn't living up to my full potential. Now, Rice, I don't know if you know, I'm going to let you know now that I am an author. I started writing fiction books, and I've put my first one out at the age of 48, right? Mm-hmm. Now, think about this, and this is why I want to get to this. The potential was brought out by a woman that I met, and this is the woman that you're talking to right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what happened to my potential from adolescent years up to the age of 48? It's like I think back and like, was this always in me? Because I write great stories, right? Yeah. But my life was such a roller coaster to where I literally never I was able to bring that part of me out until I got of older age, right? Mm-hmm. Now, here it is. This woman, we are writing for Bully magazine. We're going to write for Beat magazine. We're doing great interviews. I'm writing books. She writing children's books. And we are just hitting this age, right? So when I look back on my life, I'm like, wow, what are the tools that a young man, Rice, would need to dig into what they have inside? Why does it have to be that I had to become 48 years old to know that I'm this person?
I don't think it was the age, because our lives are parallel. I was a lot younger, but I had a lot of potential. I wasn't using it because I had too many distractions. Yeah. When I met my wife, she narrowed my life down. And so I'm not going to say I developed tunnel vision, but I was able to concentrate more. I was able to focus more because, I think when we don't have that anchor, we tend to pull ourselves too many different ways. But they can see it's like when I got my wife, it was like having another set of eyes. Instead of me trialing and error, she helped me see the end before I got there. So I would begin to change things and go in another direction. So I think what she added was she added balance to my life. And from what I'm hearing from you, you had all the energy, you had all the potential, you had all the resources. You just didn't know where to channel your energy. And that's kind of what we as Black men, we especially need that tool in our life, because we don't have it. I just think we're just wasted potential.
I mean, it is amazing because, the title of Roller Coaster Life, I don't want to write my biography on this 1 hour on this show we're going to do right now. Right.
Yes,
but
sir.
I tell you, man, I've went through some ups and some downs, but the most consistent thing in my life was a job, and when I say a job is making sure that I have money in my pocket.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I mean, real talk, if we're going to be transparent, the best times in my life is when I had a job and a side hustle, right? Now, my side hustle wasn't, I don't know the statute of limitations on things, right?
Yeah.
My side hustle was things that I probably should have been doing. Let's leave it like that. I had plenty of money in my pocket, and my life was booming. I mean, the cars and I can go to the bar and blow $1,000, the best clothes. And right, I just remember one day I sat back and I looked at all of this stuff that I had. Right. I looked at all this stuff, man. I'm talking about thousands and $1,000s worth of clothes and bags, because the reason why I say bags, because I was getting put out of houses that won't mine. Right.
Yes, sir.
I was getting that. See, that's the down moments. I got plenty of money, but I ain't got a house. Right. Yeah. Got plenty of money, but the car I'm driving ain't paid for. Right. Yes, so when you lose these things, guess what? They come pick up everything, and you look back and like, okay, I got this part right. I have no substance. So that's that roller coaster life, because we look at it like, long as I got this dough, I'm good. But at the end of the day, man, you got to have some substance. You got to have something with it. You got to have something tangible, something you can hold on to. So guess what? I've become a homeowner twice.
Me too.
But I lost the first home, which was another down moment in my life, because I went from having a home and money to living in my car. You get what I'm saying? So that's that roller coaster life I'm talking about, man. So I'm going to let you guys join in this conversation, man. If you're watching us, join in the conversation. You know what I mean? It's just beautiful that we can have this open conversation and be transparent. But, me and my wife talk, man. I'm going to be quiet for a second and let you guys chime in.
Okay. Well, I know that lifestyle, you have money, but you can't document the money. Yeah. So you're always having to trust in other people. You're always having to, you have the money, but you can't really buy anything. Anything that you buy, you have to put in someone else's name. And you have to trust that person won't turn their back on you. Or they won't say that it's theirs and, not include you in anything that you own. So I can see that roller coaster because I was there.
Yeah.
And it was but what changed me, not only was my wife, but was when I began to focus and I began to listen to the man inside of me and wonder where I'm from and wonder what's my purpose. And it led me to a place where people look at me like they don't know where I'm coming from, but the spiritual man inside me led me back to my bloodline. And once I found out my bloodline and I found out, how important the being chosen and being of the people of the book was, I narrowed my life by looking at the rules that he first gave us. And I analyzed my life and I started taking things out of my life that he said for us not to do. And that's when life began to make sense. That's when like me and my wife, we just bought our second home. I didn't know anything about purchasing a home, but it was the avenues, it was the doors, it was the opportunities that came that I didn't even ask for, but everything was timely. And I found out that the pressure that we put on ourselves is trying to do things ourselves. When you find out who you are, you find out your purpose.
Come on.
And you just have to listen and pay attention as doors open, as people who put in your life. Like you guys, I've been sitting back talking to my business partner, and I was telling him, I was like, there's an opportunity, but I just can't find out where it is. And then the opportunity fell in my lap. You got it. So I'm saying the roller coaster, it started with me being hard-headed. Going back to the book, us being stubborn and stiff-necked. And that's what leads a lot of us males, because they put so many things in our communities. I heard you talking about how they tore down your old community, and they're regentrifying it. They give us an opportunity. They put you in these places for 6 months to a year. Then they jack the price up on you. And you were paying $500 to $600 a month. And now they're telling you owe $3,000. It happened here in Charlotte. And they literally took the areas where these people grew up, and they told them they was giving them these houses, and they lived there for like 6 months. Then they sent them documents saying that there's going to be a price change. This amount's going to be due. And so a lot of these people were homeless. And if you that's what's going on. So what I'm looking to do, and what I would like to do to stop the roller coaster in our communities, is we got to enlighten our young men. Our young men, they think that they can take things that are perpetrated into our communities, and that's not how we're going to make it. Yes, you have the money, but the people that are putting these things into our communities, they know who have them. So once you get a certain amount of money, if you don't exit, they're going to bring you down. And it's a constant trap. And we gotta get the information out. And what I would like to start doing is start having meetings where, like, we get delegates. I study a lot of Reconstruction, and I see Reconstruction. The era of Reconstruction is here now. But what happens is they take us, all right, the man and woman, if you look at the time period from Reconstruction to about the mid-50s, we led the nation in marriages. And then the 60s came around, and they found a way to divide us. It was the man and woman together. Then they came up with woman's lib. Now the man had to stand alone while the woman left him to go fight for her rights. And while she was fighting for her rights, they brought in programs. And these programs eliminated a lot of us from the household, because it was easier for a woman to live and raise her kids without a man in the house with these programs. And so I say systematically, it's a design to keep what we're doing, what you're doing with your wife and what I'm doing with my wife. There's a fight to keep that from happening. And we're losing our young men because they can't see how a family functions. Each member has his own job and his own design. Like me and my wife, we tell our kids, we're forming a team. Like, if we want to move forward and we want to make progress, then each one of our children, we're making sacrifices. We're sending them to school for different professions. So if we need financial resources, we can go to this child, or we can go to this, and I think that's what we need to bring back to our communities. Now, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think integration put us in the state that we're in. And a lot of people, they disagree with me, but if you study the life of Martin Luther King, you'll see how Martin Luther King, he started out on a campaign, but toward the end, he kind of felt like the campaign that he led brought the destruction to our communities. The reason I say that is, during segregation, you had your doctors, you had your lawyers, you had all the professionals and the people with trades all in one community, because we couldn't go and we couldn't do things in the other communities. So when the children came home, they didn't go to the streets. They went down to the doctor, to whoever was a doctor, they became his apprentice. They went down to whoever was a mechanic, they became his apprentice. That's where the term apprentice came from. So when integration came, now the prominent people of our communities, they could leave and they can go to the other side of town. They could get the better buildings. They can get the better houses. It was better opportunity, but it left the unfortunate behind. And that's where the drugs came in. That's where the alcoholism, that's where this modern day, where they take us and it's kind of like they exploit us. And the way you exploit a man is you make a man desolate. And when you make him desolate, anything you put before him for profit, he'll take it, not looking at it as giving up his integrity or sacrificing his values and his morals. And when you look at our community, you know, like when a young man take to the street, I can't point a finger at him because I was that same young man. But when you take to the street and you take these opportunities that are destroying your people but putting profit in your pockets, you know, is it worth sacrificing your people for a little material gain?
Now,
yes, sir.
go ahead. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I was just sitting down last night watching this show on Netflix. It's called Amend. It's about the 14th Amendment, right?
Yes,
and the beauty of it, Will Smith is highlighting it. He's hosting. You know, he produced the show. Great show, man. It's about Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln and how the 14th Amendment was introduced into the Bill of Rights, right? Because we as blacks wasn't, you know, citizens, you know, and it was introduced into the Constitution. And that comes up to the point you're making now. Rice, this thing is so deep, right? And it's so long rooted and it's so deeply rooted into this culture that we call the United States that things like we're doing now is very important. You know what I mean? It's important to show the next generation where we come from and what we did to get to the point. So that's why I wanted to title this The Roller Coaster Life, because I want young men and women to understand that your life will never be a consistent basis. For one, because, you know, we live in America and you have to do things to survive and eat. Because the thing is, everything that we want to do on the outside, there's a thing that we call hunger.
Yeah.
When you got to eat. So that moment and that decision, when you're hungry and you got to feed your family, there's things that we have to do that may not equal to what we're supposed to do as far as the law is concerned, right? Because that individual, if you take 1 million men and we all got a different thought process of how to feed our family, it's never going to be the straight and narrow, right? So a person like yourself, a person like me, a person like my wife, and the millions of others that's trying to be conscious now and trying to tell the next generation and show the next generation that same million people, if we collectively continue to do the things that we're doing, we can help that one young man, that one young lady, right? So when we sowing these seeds, right? And we're planting these seeds. And the one thing I love, Rice, is so many of us is doing it now. Social media has become the norm to where people are being able to get up here and everybody can be the preacher, the pastor, or the motivational speaker, and that guy to say, look, this is what I've been through and this is where I'm trying to make it. And you can do the same thing, because social media can be the demon, because it can also be something positive as well. And this is our voice to be able to use it now to let people know that, hey, look where I came from and look what I've done, because that's the emphasis of things. That's what you have to do. You have to show a person like, look where I'm at now. That's what Bully Magazine is about.
Look a relatable situation.
And look where I am at now. But because if you show them that, they know straight up and down that I can get here. So back to what I was saying about amendment, anybody who has Netflix, go check that show out. And I take my head off to Will Smith. I only seen the first episode, but it's a great episode because there's things in there that I didn't know about Frederick Douglass or Abraham Lincoln that they are showing us, man. I'm going to tell you, it's like they left so much out the history books. Oh, yeah. They left so much out the history books. And it's so good that we have people who have made this type of money like Will Smith and have that platform to just go grab a show on Netflix and show our young kids. Hey, I'll tell you one thing, you ain't even got to send your kid. That history lesson I got last night, I got it at my age, and I never knew this. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But I understand what you're saying. So you and your wife is ready to play a part in the community, and I take my head off to you guys for being in the community, man. And the one advice I got, if you have a lane, make sure you in that lane and you making that lane strong, right? And it seems like that's what you're doing. You make that lane strong, and you make sure that the message that you're trying to send not only will open up the mind of young men and women, but it'll give them something tangible to hold on to. And that sounds like what you guys are doing.
Yes, sir. Because what's happening, like if you go into the inner cities, you see people, the things that are going on in the inner cities is one thing that we've always had that society has taken from us, and that's hope. When you look at these inner cities, you don't see the hope. You don't see you don't see any unity. All you see is like rats in a maze. They're all scrambling, trying to get these. So if the thing about it is, what this is my platform as a barber. My platform as a barber is I see more people than a pastor, because a lot of people don't go to church. So it's my responsibility to make sure, from the elderly to the young, they hear something inspirational, because you never know what a person's going through that week. So if you don't give some inspiration and if you don't give some hope, then how is that person going to ever overcome what they're in? And that's what's missing, you know, because if you look at the family structures, there's not a lot of time being spent with the kids. Even some mother and father homes are so busy, you know, working the jobs and other things going on in their life, to where they're not instilling a lot of things in the kids. So you have the children being raised by the negative side of social media, the negative side of TV, and by the time they become adolescent, it's kind of hard to break those things.
Yes.
Parents aren't getting them young. So we need more family oriented practices in our community, where we, you know, like if I kind of look at what LeBron is doing, how LeBron getting the parents educated and putting the, you know, he's building apartment buildings now for the children that attend his school, so that the families don't have to go walk through the rough areas, changing their environment, giving them hope. And see, that inspiration and that hope, that will make a man who's working 2 jobs making $8 an hour, that'll make him want to go to school, get a degree, get a trade, to where now he doesn't have to spend 16 hours away from his family to take care of his family. He can actually, now he's got a career. And we need to get our people back to careers instead of just jobs, because these jobs have put us in a controlled state where if they see you elevate, and if they see you drive a nice car, or if one of them happen to come to your home or pass by your home and see you living good, these people are losing. I've seen people lose their job because they bought a new car. And it's crazy to, you know, for things to happen that way. But that's what I meant about, you know, give hope. Like I used to work at Caterpillar, and I was in the engineering department. I was the liaison between the engineers and the shop floor. So I was living well, but they wanted me to sacrifice time from my family. So, you know, and I had to have a conversation with them, and I let them know I'm not concerned about the money, because, you know, I've had money, I had more money than that, but it was constant, it was steady, and I didn't have to look over my back for it. So I was comfortable, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice my family. And the comment that I made to him is, you can pack up and go to Mexico tomorrow, but my family's still going to be here. And I have to show my loyalty to who's going to be here versus who, you know, I've always been told to build on cement and not sand.
That's right.
Yeah. So
you're going to sink and sand.
Yeah. So that's why. And throughout my life, you know, after that point, that's where I was kind of like a fish on the hook, but I stopped fighting and I allowed myself to be reeled in. And I have been cutting hair since I was 13, because my dad was in the military. He was back and forth to Germany. I didn't like how they was cutting hair over there, so I started cutting hair myself. And when we came here and we was here constant, I started cutting the neighborhood kids. And there was an incident that happened, and it landed me in the county jail. And while I was in there, I was cutting hair just to keep my mind free, so I wouldn't. A lot of people go in and they come out worse, but I didn't want. I segregated myself from everybody, and I would just cut hair and sleep. I didn't want to interact, because if I'm interacting, that means I'm getting comfortable, and I could never get comfortable in a place like that.
Exactly.
So I didn't get any comfort. I made myself as uncomfortable as possible. But during that time, that's when I met a gentleman who knew my father, and he had a barbershop, and he gave me the opportunity to get my barber's license. And from the day that I got my license, it was like something told me that it's more than just cutting hair. It's because I started seeing young men who I used to be with.
Yeah.
It changed, but they were still the same way. And I never looked down on anyone, because that one person could be me. That light switch didn't have to come on for me, but it did. So I would always, instead of looking down on people, I would put my mind to where they are and try to speak and uplift them. And that's what led, and it added to my success, because it seemed like the more I tried to help people, the larger my clientele got.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
and you know,
love
like
that.
a lot of parents, they trust me so much, they bring their kids and they just drop them off, and
Mhm.
they'll come in and they'll be like, his grades are failing, he's hanging around the wrong kids. You talk to him because I can't get to him. You know, so it became a mentorship.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then
love
like
that.
now I have other gentlemen who are, you know, they look at what, I don't call it success, I just call it blessing. But they look at how I've been blessed, and they're, you know, they're asking me, how did you do this? How do you do that? So I, you know, so when they come in, it'll be maybe 3 or 4 gentlemen, and we'll sit around and we'll just talk business. And I
Mhm.
try to explain to them, especially a truck driver, like, why would you just concentrate on driving a truck? You have a license. Invest in some land. You invest in that land. Now you can get some elderly retired truck drivers. That land can now turn into a training facility. So
Mhm.
you have a training facility, and now you're driving the truck. So you got multiple sources of income. And my grandfather always taught me, he said, you study the ocean, you study the lake, and you want your finances that way, because one source of income going out multiple ways, it dries up. But like a lake or a river, or going into the ocean, it'll never dry up because it's got multiple sources coming in. So
Mhm.
that's why a lot of our communities fail, because we concentrating on a job, or we
Mhm.
concentrating on one source of income, but we're
Mhm.
trying to do multiple things, which
Mhm.
lands you back to ground zero.
Mhm.
So that's the type thing that I try to relay to people. Don't don't get a job and then create debt. Get a job, create multiple sources of income by, you know, say for example, the average person, if you're making $20 an hour, you get a
Mhm.
raise and now you're making 25.
Mhm.
Don't start living off your $25.
Mhm.
Live off that 20 and let that 5 be what be something to start a business, or be something to start investing, doing something with your money besides spending. We've been
Mhm.
turning consumers instead of producers. But
Mhm.
if you look across the broad spectrum, everywhere the product is made or produced, you see our faces. But where
Mhm.
the money is made, that's where the separation begins. So
Mhm.
if we can produce a product for someone else and make them a lot of money, what could we do for ourselves?
Mhm.
If
Mm.
we were to produce and control the whole product versus producing the product and allowing somebody else to take that product and make more money off of it than we do. That's what we got to look at, how talented our communities are. And
Mhm.
again, I'll use our athletes. If these young men would form their own teams and not just allow themselves to have other people manage and micromanage them, and look at how much money these gentlemen are generating, but look at the margin of profit that they're receiving is only a tenth or less of what they're producing. Now,
Mhm.
what if we can take all of that that's being produced and bring it back to our communities? And I want to share something with you guys. I'm working on a plan, which, well, it's not a plan, but it's a format that we can use to bring back our HBCUs. I remember the old Negro leagues where, you know, a lot of us would go on Sundays and Saturdays, and we would watch our people play baseball, and it generated a lot of money, enough money for these teams to travel. What if we took, like, our college athletes are beginning to gravitate back to the HBCUs? On
Mhm.
Saturdays, we watch our young black males and females compete on Saturdays. Then
Mhm.
on Sundays, if we can form our own NBA, it can still be NBA, the Negro Basketball Association.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we do this on Sundays. We could take that money, because we're going to these universities and taking up money in these universities and charging to get in. The revenue it could create, we could rebuild these schools and bring these schools to the status where our children would feel proud to come to a HBCU, and
Wow.
we'll have the same
That's awesome.
facilities, we have the same resources, because we're generating and we're taking care of ourselves. Why do we have to take our talents and our abilities and our monies to someone who doesn't respect us? You know, they got us crying, you know, and some people may look at me crazy for saying this, but it makes us look weak to take the streets and beg for people to look at us like, you know, we're human too. We shouldn't have to do that.
Mhm.
I
You know,
say
I
my
think.
my approach is, if you have 50,000 people,
Mhm.
we take $100 per 50,000, put it together. and start buying things. That's power. Use your money as power and stop walking these streets begging for people to look at us like we're human. We know we're human. We don't need. We'll show you we're human by buying up these communities like you do. We can do it if we do it as a people, but it's got to take unity.
It's got to take human, and it has to take commitment too. If
Yes.
we can reach a number of different communities and share what you just explained to us, to those communities, and we're on the same balance base, I think it's workable, because I think that's a great vision that you just announced to me. So
Yes. And see,
that's big.
my passion for my people is I love it. Don't get me wrong. I don't see anything with being pro-black. If you don't love yourself, how can you love others?
Yeah.
So we have to start loving ourselves.
Amen.
And what I mean by that is the respect has got to be there. If we don't start respecting ourselves, respecting each other, treating each other, helping each other, then we're turning into the monster that's controlled and that's misused us and did so many things to us. So it's to me it's very detrimental that we just turn to each other and begin to help each other, because a lot of people, once they get to a certain status, they don't come back, or you can't really go back, to be honest, because when you go back, sometimes I've learned that when you connect yourself with something unproductive, it hinders your walk. But like I always tell people, like if you had a fruit tree, and if you want to get the maximum from that tree, you got to prune the dead leaves and prune the dead branches. And I walk in life, just like if you look back at your life, and as I look back at my life, there's people I had to let go. There's things I had to let go, because if I didn't let those things go, that negative energy and those things that they brought with them hindered some of the things that you're trying to do to get to where you're at. It takes away from your focus. Back to what your husband was saying earlier about when hit the roller coaster. That's what I figured out about the roller coaster. The roller coaster becomes constant when you prune dead things from your life, dead things from your walk, dead friends from your communication table. Like I still have friends that I'm not gonna call them unproductive, but they're still in the same state from when we were younger. I don't communicate with them, and I don't hang out with them and things like that, because like if I ever see them and they want to go somewhere, I'll be like, oh man, my wife, man, she wants me to do. I keep an excuse so that in case of if I'm there, if you need me, and I want you to still be there if I need you, but we just can't. Our lives are too different for us to intermingle. And that's the balance that you have to find there. But that's the balance and the sacrifice that you just have to make if you want to keep your focus. And that's how I've kept my focus this far.
Rice, I've been in these conversations, man, and like I say, I take my hat off to you, and to a lot of brothers like you, man, and y'all have you guys got this vision, and I love it. You know what I mean? I love the vision for our community, but I'm such a forward thinker, right? And when I say I'm a forward thinker, see, I look at all the ingredients, right? And let's just take what you just said about the roller coaster life and leaving those certain people alone, right? Enhance your life and to get your life to where you think it's supposed to be. You can't forget that they still a part of your plan. They still a part of that group. They're still a part of that community, right? So the way I look at it is like an ingredient in a cake, right? If you leave out one ingredient in a cake, it's not going to rise. It's not going to grow, right? So you have to have all the ingredients in that cake to make sure it's delicious, right? So everybody tried over the years to add this to it and add that to it, and it didn't work, right? So the thing is that when you are doing what you're doing in your community, right? I'm that person to say, if I can touch one person, right? And that one person can touch one person, and that one person can touch one person, man, we're doing the work. You know what I mean? I've always say everybody can't be the Martin Luther Kings and the Frederick Douglasses. They came at a certain time, but we all can play our part, right? So where you are down in Charlotte, you're saying, okay, I want to do A, B, C, and D, right? I want to do these things. I want to make sure that people can have the resources that they need. My wife and I, we're on the mindset changing, because I think if we change the mindset and let people know that, hey, I was here, now look at me, right? So if they ever come ask, well, how did you get there? I can tell them that because I lived that roller coaster life. I lived that life. I told them what I did along the way. But the one thing that I think that was consistent is listening to the next person, right? And understanding their value and knowing exactly where they're trying to take their life. Because with what you're doing, what we're doing, and with the other millions of people, once those things get into that cake, you're gonna start seeing that change, man. You're gonna start seeing that change in the community. It's happening. It is happening. But I'm gonna tell you, there's always a fourth. That's why there's always this force. That's why when you get a chance, look at amendment. Look at I'm telling you, there's some forces out there that we just seen it. We just seen it in the Capitol. I'm telling you, it's never cut and dry. So we have to be very strategic and careful, right?
Yes, sir.
Anything that we do in life, trust me, I get so many invites to certain groups and organizations. And, I have to really pick and choose. And I've always been that way of what I want to promote, right? And what I want to do, because everything that somebody spews out, especially when they have this broad, how can I say it? This broad vision of what the community should be, right? We have to be careful with that, because just like they're strategic, we have to be strategic. And it has to grow from the bottom up, right? Yes, man, I believe, hey, Rice, I believe, put your camera down. You kind of getting out of yeah, there you go. I believe in the foundation. Just like you said, I believe in that foundation, man. I believe in all of that. But I also think collectively, when you got an idea and I got an idea, and the other millions of people that's on social media, and in the pulpits every Sunday, when we all got ideas, look what just happened when we all had an enemy, that common enemy. Let's take it back to the 70s when the brothers had a common enemy, the Black Panthers. When they had a common, we was together.
Yes, sir.
We was together. So that force that I'm talking about, seeing the black man come together, seeing the white man come to, seeing the black woman come together. What did they do? What did they do? They came in. They rose up like, hold on, hold on, this ain't right.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? They came and they rose up. So therefore, we have to be strategic in what we do. See, it has to be something that they look back and say, oh man, what the hell just happened? Yeah. Oh my God, we got a black man in the oh my God. Now we got a black woman. Oh my God. Okay, what's happening here? And you see what they doing now? They're strategizing now, brother. And they're gonna keep doing it. So this gonna be a constant battle. So therefore, it starts at the home, just like you said. It starts at the home with our young black men and black women, making them strong and letting them understand, man, this life is not gonna be a pretty one. It's gonna be a roller coaster. But you make sure when you get to the top and when you fall back down, you make sure you climb. You make sure you start climbing back up, man. Don't ever stay at the bottom, man. You get what I'm saying? You always make sure you climb, because it's going to be at some point where you're going to make it to the top and you're going to be able to pull people up with you.
Yes,
right? Sir. Because that roller coaster is going to stop there, and that's your journey. You there now. You there. Kamala Harris is there now. They can never take that away from her. Barack Obama can't never take that. Look at Cicely Ty, she just died. They can never take what she done. The Tyler Perry's, what you're doing in your community, cutting hair. Every time you sow a seed in one of them young men's life, they can't take that away from you.
At all. So let me tell you something. So this roller coaster life is a great topic. I love you for this, husband. I love you for this. This is a great topic. But like you said, we always have to acknowledge that whatever we have to pull our people up with us. Okay. This is the same reason why I created this magazine, Bully Magazine, Once we allow people to speak their truth on any pain that they went through, once they release that pain and get over it, because sometimes we stay stagnated in anything that we went through and we fear that it won't be accepted. But once you release it and it's out of your system, you take off. Everybody that has been in part of our issues, they're taking off. There's not one person I could say are still left at the bottom. We gave them that energy to speak as therapy, and they all taken off. Everyone, every time I look on social media, somebody's doing something. They don't started a business here. They're at speaking engagements. They was invited to this. There's not one person. And so this pandemic happened not just for them, but for me too, because my losses has allowed me to be creative, has allowed me to listen to God and use my vision. So whatever God tell me to do, I go, because I had a roller coaster life in my lifetime. But I look back at that, and now I look at where I'm at now. I ain't where I want to be, but I'm getting there. But I ain't going back down that roller coaster. I'm going up. And I'm gonna bring some people with me.
That's
you know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's right.
So I love this topic. I really love this topic. This was great.
Yeah.
And Rice, I love what you're doing, man, brother. I love what you're doing because people don't understand that the barbershop is You guys are therapists, man.
Yes.
You guys are. I mean, the barbershop.
That is why I'm doing that magazine called Beauty. That is why I put it out. I told you, Rice. I said beauty, because barbering is beauty, because you make men look good. It is underrated because it's not talked about enough. You guys get people sit in your chair, and you have to be the therapist. You have to be the counselor. You have to be the mom. You have to be the dad. Sometimes you have to be the feed. You got to give them food. You got to find somewhere to stay. You got to be the resource center. And it's the same way for hairdressers, for nail techs. Anywhere I go, there's a conversation started. And that person could be going through something. So you got to use your mind to think, now, what can I tell this person? How can I help this person? So I want to know what it's like for you to be in that field and where it brought you to. So that's why I want a short story. I'm not charging people a lot, but I'm trying to get them out there so people can see what it's like. Beauty is underrated, and it's just not fair. So that's why I'm putting out Beat.
Yes. And, like, we are the pillar of the community. And what's happened is, reality TV, we've gotten away from being the pillar of the community and started being, I hate to say it, but divas. You have male divas now, and they're too much into themselves. And that's what's destroying that's why people don't talk about the barbershops as much, because, a lot of my clients, they gravitated to me because of the environment that we create. We create an environment where it doesn't matter if you're elderly, if you're young, woman or male, the conversation fits everybody, and I was going to, the shop that I'm in now was going to bring in new barbers, but I'm reluctant to do it because I see how a lot of barbers, how they handle themselves. And I don't want a woman coming into the shop and not feeling comfortable, like she's a piece of meat. I think that, if you can't be productive, male or female, then I don't want to bring that type of person into my shop. Because I want everybody to come in and be comfortable. Because, and like when I interview barbers, I tell them, I'm like, what you have to realize, when that woman comes into the shop and she brings her son, her husband, is comfortable with her coming in there. Now you create an environment where that line is crossed. Now that man is, if he's out of town, that child's not coming unless he's coming. When you promote a shop where everybody's comfortable, it doesn't matter male or female when they bring that child or when they come to get their haircut or whatever. It's an environment for everyone. And when you get into a lot of barbers have become selfish. It's about me, me, me. And when you're in business, the minute it's about you, you could be the best barber in the world. But if you don't know how to relate to people and you can't create an environment, then you'll be the best barber in the world to yourself. So you won't be able to display that talent, that ability, and won't be able to function and take care of your family. Yeah, so that's what I learned early, on this roller coaster ride as a barber. I've been in multiple shops. I've been in good shops. I've been in bad shops. I've been in shops where it felt like I was hustling in the street, and I've been in shops where it was professional. And I think, like what you were saying earlier about everything around you shapes and molds you. And so what I've always did was I can be around the worst person, but that worst person has a good attribute. And that one good attribute is what I'm going to take from that person and build on myself. So I take the good attributes that I ran into as a barber, and I meshed them all together, and I created, you know, the environment and the barber that I am now. But it took those bad experiences.
That's right.
Being at the bottom of that roller coaster, so
Mm-hmm.
that as I traveled and if I didn't see all those things, I wouldn't have the perspective on things that I have now.
That's
So
right.
I've learned one thing about us as a people: under pressure, do we shine? You know, and that's how we become diamonds. If we're never under pressure, just like I tell my kids all the time, I made it too easy for you. You don't
Yeah.
have that drive that I have. You know,
Yeah.
if I didn't have $1 in my pocket, I'm very uncomfortable. But you know, so I pick at my son all the time. He'll walk around, he'll be like, Dad, I need $5. He's only 15, you know, but when I was 15, I'm like, I had to have money in my pocket.
Yeah.
I would take a lawnmower, I would take a rake or something.
Yes.
I had to have some money, but that drive was taken from because there's no pressure, because we the parents bear all the pressure. And you know, but that's another thing that I'm learning on this roller coaster of parenthood is there has to be a balance of what I let my children experience to give them drive, and I have to make sure that I'm not too overprotective, that I don't let them experience life and be able to leave my home and live a comfortable life and not be naive to the devices that are out there to bring them down. So that's the balance that I'm working on now. And my wife teases me all the time and tell me that I have my daughters in a glass tube and only I have the key and open the door. But I have to protect them because it's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah,
you know?
Dragons out there. You got to protect them.
Yes, and
throw that fire on them, huh? You don't want that to happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
And in our community, you know, women aren't respected like they should be.
Not at all.
Because of the music, that's, you know, the social media. And I'm a strong believer in, you know, what the Bible says about you put a vision before people, and that's what they'll become. And all the visions that are being put before us, we're adults. We can choose our path. But these innocent children, these visions that's put before them, they're destroying them. You know,
my brother, I'm gonna tell you, I hate to say this, but and I kind of say this to the guys, you know, when we're working and we just get to talking. It's like I'm not gonna even say our community anymore. I'm gonna say the culture, right?
Yes, sir.
Because you know this black and white thing has become a culture-based thing, you know, because we just got as many white people that are struggling as black people, you know. We got poor Chinese, poor Indian, but we have built this culture around you know, rap music and things of that nature, and there's a culture base going on, and there's no color with it anymore. You know what I mean? But one thing I can say, when there is a common enemy, you know, and I felt like we had one in the White House for 4 years, right? Look what happened. Look what happened, man. You know, over 85 million people said no, not no more. Right. And this was all types of people. So this country can be strong together, right? And there's a certain fascists of people that don't want to see that happening, right? So therefore, we never want to isolate ourselves in our own communities. We always want to have our eyes and ears open to everything that's going on around us, right? So you never want to put yourself in an isolated position. You know what I mean? I would never put my, you know, family in that, because I need to know what's going on. You know, I need to know what's going on. Now, pulling our money together, we know that can be a difficult thing within our community. You know what I mean? I'm gonna leave. That's a whole nother conversation, because you know, we get away from people like you said, right? That doesn't see a vision no more because of certain things that they're doing. And would you trust them? Would you trust them with $1 million to take it to the bank and say, put this in the bank for me, man? Go and make this night. It's $1 million. You know what I mean, my brother? And go and put it and make sure that, so when, I mean, how many people that you know like that, you wake up in the morning, when you're ready to balance your checkbook, your $1 million is there, right? And I'm just throwing that out there as a metaphor to say that we have to be careful with our visions and the things that we want to do. And you never want to isolate that. You want to make sure that the resources come from a lot of different places, because at the end of the day, Rice, we're talking about our young men and women, you know, and we're talking about building a better country,
Right.
a place that everyone can live in unity. You know what I mean? And that's just the democratic side of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I do have a side of me that I do want to see every young black man and woman succeed in this world. You know what I mean? And that's the reason why I'm open to telling my story and sharing who I am and the things that I've been through. That's why I'm so gung-ho of making sure that I leave something behind for my grandkids. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure that, you know, everything that we do in this life, man, we are pushing it forward, right?
Yes,
Pushing
sir.
it forward, making sure the culture, you know what I mean? Because I can tell you straight up and down, man, it's some brothers, it's some young men out here that don't even look like you, Rice, that will stand by your side and make sure that your vision comes to fruition.
Yes, sir.
But there's also some people that look just like you that wouldn't give you a pot to piss in or wanted to throw it out of.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it. And that's just the truth. But we should never stop wanting to make sure our vision is manifested. You have every right to do that, but you got to make sure that your mind is not isolated, right? You want to make sure that your vision is broad-based to include a culture and not a color. You know what I mean? And we have to be conscious and careful of that. You know what I mean? Because I tell you, and I told you, go and look back to our podcast, man. I told a story about when I had a business a long time ago, and I had a person that didn't look like me put hundreds of thousands of dollars in my pocket, and the other one that looked just like me took my money. You get what I'm saying?
Yes,
right?
Sir.
So
Yes,
therefore, it taught me, and I was in my early 20s when this happened. You know what I mean? So therefore, I learned early, man, that a lot of my mentors didn't look like me, man. They really didn't. You know, and a lot of people that took things from me look just like me. So I have developed this broad sense of a vision to make sure that not only am I contributing in the right way, but that I'm building up a culture and not a color. You know what I mean? And that's just my take on it.
Yeah.
That's just my take on it. Hey, to each his own. People, I mean, you have to play your position, Rice. My wife have to play her position, and I gotta play mine. But if we all play that position correctly, we can build a foundation that can't be broken. Because trust and believe, there's a lot of people out there with jackhammers that's ready to tear it down. You know what I mean? But we got to be very strategic and understand. See what LeBron is doing. LeBron came up from a place where he had a talent. But he took that money, instead of blowing it on hoes and cars and weed, he put it to the right use. And I take my head off to that young man. You get what I'm saying?
He wasn't selfish. He thought about his community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we also got a lot of men. We also got a lot of men that made a lot of money and effed it up.
Yeah.
As much as I love Floyd Mayweather, he got to start showing me what he's giving back to the community.
Yeah,
right? A lot of it, you know. I love Floyd, man. Floyd is the man, but that man got a buku full of money, man.
Yeah.
And see, that's what happens when you don't, when we support, and we some of your major supporters, and you don't give back, and you taking, that makes the community more desolate.
Yeah.
Because, And so, you know, I'm not saying no one. I've heard a term before called it's kind of like neighborhood guilt. Like you made it out the hood, or you made it out of the community, and you're living better. And a lot of people have this guilt where they feel like they have to come back. Yeah. And now I don't think that they're obligated to come back, but I'm saying for the sake, we've seen the events that are taking place where no matter what neighborhood you're in, you can be at any moment, you can be pulled over, or you can be assumed to not belong in that neighborhood. Yeah. So when those type things happen, reality should set in, and we should realize no matter where I'm at in life, no matter what I'm doing in life, I'm still looked at as the black sheep of this society. So until we realize that you're going to be looked like that, and the only thing you can do about that is become a powerful force in this community. And I mean, our communities become powerful, because if you take our communities away from this society, I don't think this society can function.
Come on.
Oh no.
And what I mean by that is And there's another point I want to make before I go any deep into that. But right now, when I was talking about the Reconstruction period, we have to pay attention to how we're always brought down to be desolate again. The government begins to offer programs, and we get caught up in these programs. And once the program runs its course, there's desolation at the end of each one of these programs. And the example I give is the Great Migration North, when a lot of people sold their land and went north because they were tired of the racism. You had these big, beautiful apartments that were being built with plenty of resources around them. They move into these apartments, they've sold their land, and this is their new dream. Then all of a sudden, the jobs are taken away. And you're left because you can't go back home because you sold everything. So you're trapped into these projects. Now they went from apartment homes to projects. And those were started by programs.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have to, in this movement that's taking place right now with our people, we have to make sure that we don't take the programs, but we continue to work hard and build our communities by blood, sweat, and tears, and not handouts. Because handouts have made us weak as a people. Think about how many talented people we have in our community that sit by the mailbox every day and wait for a check. And if that check's cut off, how are you going to take care of your family?
That's right.
If you don't have the skill,
Dependent.
you don't have the trade, you haven't connected with the resources. And that's one way that's a trap we keep falling in. We keep making programs. And, like I tell my kids, if somebody makes you rich, they can make you poor. But if you make yourself wealthy, you're going to always have income. So we have to get back to that point where wealthy is enough and rich is too much. Not saying that you shouldn't strive to have a lot. That's not what I'm saying. But it's the difference in being rich. If I'm rich, that means that I have a lot, but now I got to maintain it. But if I'm wealthy, that means I'm continuously got money coming in. I'm continuously moving and creating income and creating wealth. So that's a balance that I try to teach people. A lot of young men come to me. First thing they say is, I want to be rich. And I tell them, I say, well, you want somebody to make you rich, because you're not going to just get rich overnight. You hit the lottery made you rich. No matter how you get rich, somebody made you rich. But if you work and you grind and you get to a point to where you create a life that's comfortable for you, nobody can take that from you. Right. Because it's you that's getting up in the morning, like the bird going out. Like I tell people, as a barber, that's how my faith strengthened. I wake up every morning. I don't know if I'm gonna cut a head. Just like the bird, he wakes up and he pecks the ground. He doesn't know if he's gonna get a worm. But I trust and believe that because he woke me up and he knows what my family needs, if I'm available, he's gonna send everything that I need my way. And the faith and the hope, those are the things we got to bring back to our community. And like knowing who we are, that's the big awakening, and everything that's taking place now. You got to know who you are. When you know who you are, I ask people all the time, when we sit around if you're in a room full of different cultures, you can go to everyone in that room and they can pretty much name nations and continents, cities and states, and even cities in other countries that they're from. But when you come to us, if you ask me where I'm from, I can tell you my family's from South Carolina. That's not a country. You know what I mean? So when you read the Bible and it says the lost, who's more lost than the people who do not know where they're from? So that awakening's got to take place. And once that awakening takes place, we'll find out, like, no matter what we do, we're never going to be included in this nation. We've never been included in nations. As you read the Bible, you'll see we function within nations as our own identity. When they talk about coronavirus, they say most Americans, 40% of Americans are suffering from coronavirus. Then they separate us, but they say the Black and African American communities they're the ones that's being hit the hardest. No matter what statistics are being thrown out, we're always separated. And that's for a reason. And it's time that we wake up and realize.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can be American, but you won't be the American that other nations can be, because our God won't allow it, because he separated us for a reason. We can be amongst this nation and we can make this nation prosperous, but we got to find our identity, and we have to find how to contribute to the society and contribute it to other nations. But we got to get ourselves together. There's no way we can ever move as a people if we don't heal all these wounds that we've suffered. Now, I'm not going to blame it on slavery, but I'm going to blame it that we have never sat down and talked about the things of slavery. All of us are traumatized. Until the day that we're born and growing up in our communities, we've seen things that are so traumatic to where you really can't lock us up if you focus on the trauma, because we're the most traumatized people in this nation, yet we're the most incarcerated in this nation. We need to be healed and find out why we get angry so quick, why we will go the negative way instead of working hard to go the right way, why we can't unite, why we can't trust each other, why we can't come together and put our money together and do things as a people as other cultures do. So you have to fix those devices that have destroyed us.
I love the points you're making. You know, we are unfortunately we have hit our hour mark, but I just want to leave.
This was a great conversation.
It was really a great conversation.
We got to have you back.
Yes, but I just want to leave. I just want to leave you with this thought. And I just love your mindset, man, and the way you're looking at society, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave you with this thought. You know, you brought up something about us being stopped, right? And it gets back about with the police, you know, and it gets back to a culture thing. Because if you look at that culture, it's multiracial. And we got black cops stopping young black men and doing the same thing to them as, you know what I mean? So that's why I want to touch base on culture and that color, right? And that's just how I look at it, because I just see so much of it happening. But, you know, if I take my life, right, and I have to equate it to something, you know, I have stood next to a person that didn't look like me, and we prospered. You see what I mean?
Yes,
so
sir.
Therefore, that's my story. You have your story. But I tell you, is this the young man that was talking about a podcast, Kim?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, your podcast is
going to be good.
So that's what I want to talk about. Great, man. You know,
so I mean, our viewers that are listening, Mr. Rice will be having his own podcast. What's the name of it going to be again?
It's going to be the name of the shop, Clipper Talk.
Clipper Talk. And I think that's going to be a great podcast for a lot of barbers to join in, to conversate, to maybe you can be invited on his show, on his podcast. But I think it's a wonderful concept and it needs to be heard. So we're looking forward to seeing it when you get it started. Let us know.
Yeah. You continue, man. Continue on your journey, man. And you make sure that every young man or young lady that sits in your chair, you continue to be in their ear. And you continue to let them know that they can be great and they do not have to be a part of, you know, like you say, a program or things of that nature. They do not have to take that hand out. You continue to make sure that you let them know to work hard for what they want. But you also continue to let them know that, man, hold your brother hand, hold your sister hand. Y'all collaborate and y'all make great things happen.
Amen.
So with that being said, man, we're going to sign out now. We would love to have you back. I can't wait to see your story. You
don't go nowhere yet.
Okay. You sharing a story in Beat magazine?
I just want to advertise. We're going to be advertising this new magazine. That's the new Bully magazine that will be coming out. So be looking forward to that. And it will be dropping sometime in March. Okay. So
is he sharing his story?
We appreciate you. I'm sorry?
Appreciate you guys having me.
Is he sharing his story in Beat?
He's sharing part of his story in Beat.
I got you.
On all his career and what made him get started. So be looking for Rice in the new Beat magazine, Beauty magazine. He'll be advertising his shop as well. So it's going to be some great things for Mr. Rice.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm so glad we met and we connected because I think you're a great man. So keep that vision, keep that mindset, and keep pushing those children to be better.
Thank you.
Than most of us.
Yes,
because the children are our future, so we have to keep pushing them to be better.
Yes,
so I really appreciate you. So I'm going to sign out. I'm put on my little introduction, and then from there, we're going to sign off, okay?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Are you looking for a conversation? Well, on the Talk Over podcast, we discuss topics about adversity, mental health, society, relationships, eating habits, family members, and those children. We inspire others to help them gain motivation by listening to our conversations as we talk about all the challenging things that life can bring. Join us for fun-filled conversation to keep you smiling on the Talk Over podcast. Hope you join us.